On the surface, it appears as if Colorado Rockies outfielder Mickey Moniak had a breakout season. In over 135 games played and over 460 plate appearances, the former number 1 overall draft pick / 270 with a 306 on base and 518 slugging for an 824 OPS and 115 adjusted OPS. To name a few of his stats, he hit 52 extra base hits, which includes 24 home runs, drove in 68 RBIs, scored 62 runs, and stole 9 bases. Pretty much every single one of his stats were career highs. Again, it seems like Moniak turned a page in his career in 2025. In 5 seasons in the big leagues entering this year, he had a lowly 673 OPS and 85 adjusted OPS in only about 900 plate appearances. Injuries and poor performance caused him to bounce around teams for a while as well. This year, however, he added over 150 points to his OPS while setting a personal best for playing time. Not bad for someone who wasn't even on the team until the day before the season started. By the way, I might add that if we express Moniak's stats across a full 600 plate appearance season, he would have hit 31 home runs, stolen 12 bases, and drove in 89 RBIs. Given all of that, what exactly is the issue? Despite solid offensive numbers, Mickey Moniak might have actually been a poor player this year. I say that because his WAR was negative 0.6. Yes, you heard that correctly. That's pretty rare. You don't often see a player provide that good of hitting while also having that low of a WAR. It's a bit of an anomaly. We'll get to why his WAR is so low, but first, to see just how much of an anomaly Mickey Moniak's 2025 season was, let's compare it to other seasons all time. This season, there were 177 players in Major League Baseball to come to the plate at least 450 times. Moniak's 824 OPS is the 33rd highest, while his adjusted OPS the 70th highest. We'll get to that disparity later, but first, of that group of 177 players, Moniak's WAR ranks 173rd. By all accounts, he was a top 70 hitter in baseball this year, but also one of the least valuable players. Naturally, all of the other players near the bottom of the leaderboard had poor offensive numbers. Here's a comparison of players near Moniak, where everyone else was not that great. Moniak sticks out like he doesn't belong there. His negative 0.6 WAR is, of course, the lowest for any player with a 100 plus adjusted OPS and 450 plate appearances. The next lowest WAR? 0.4 by Kyle Manzardo. Manzardo had a 110 adjusted OPS. What about players who matched Moniak's mark? There were 70 players with an adjusted OPS of at least 115 with 450 plate appearances. The next lowest WAR came from Mike Trout at 1.5. What about OPS? There were 34 players with an OPS of at least 824. Moniak's mark is not only the worst of that group, he's in last place by a lot. The second lowest WAR, with an OPS that high, came from Ben Rice, whose mark was 836 with 2.2 WAR. For those doing the math, that's a difference of 2.8. The difference between Moniak at 34th and Rice at 33rd is roughly the same as Rice at 33rd and Byron Buxton at 12th. Moniak wasn't just in last, he was lapping everybody else. This is all just one season though. How does he compare to others throughout all of MLB history? Looking at all players with a 115 or higher adjusted OPS in a single season, Moniak's negative 0.6 WAR is the second worst ever. I would like to repeat that last point because it sounds vaguely important. Of all players throughout the history of Major League Baseball that were as good offensively as Moniak, his negative 0.6 WAR is the second lowest ever. Only Logan Morrison of the 2011 Florida Marlins outdid him, having an adjusted OPS 1 point higher and a mere fraction of a point lower WAR. Other than Morrison, you have to go all the way back to 1996 to find a player who had that low of a WAR and a similar adjusted OPS. If we look at OPS, Moniak does fare better, albeit barely. His 824 OPS is the 6th highest for a player to earn a WAR that low. Pretty much everyone in front of him achieved their seasons during the steroid era, so I'll let you draw your own conclusions. Based on everything I've said so far, Mickey Moniak was simultaneously one of baseball's better hitters, while also being one of the worst players as well. From a historical standpoint, he practically had the worst valuable season of all time for someone that was as good as him offensively. The big question remains though, how is this possible? If he was such a good hitter, was his fielding really that bad to lower his overall value? Let's look at some of his stats. In 2025, Moniak recorded a D-WAR, or defensive WAR, of negative 2.7. That was by far the lowest in baseball, half a point lower than Jose Altuve. In fact, negative 2.7 D-WAR ranks as the 62nd lowest mark of all time. Seriously. Looking at other numbers, Moniak also had negative 23 DRS, or defensive runs saved. That's also the lowest mark in baseball, 5 lower than Jung-Hoo Lee. As for historical context, negative 23 DRS would rank somewhere in the bottom 30 for all players, dating back to 2004. Looking at more statistics, according to StatCast, Moniak's negative 12 fielding run value was the 6th lowest in the league, his outs above average the 30th worst, and his arm value the worst overall. Those are all fancy and complex ways to say, yeah, his defense was pretty bad. He didn't have great range, didn't throw out many base runners, and fielded the ball as well as someone on a 119-loss team would. One other factor that I believe contributes to his low WAR has to do with his hitting kind of being overrated. Hear me out. Going back to those 177 players with at least 450 plate appearances, Moniak, again, ranks 33rd in OPS and 70th in adjusted OPS. A 70th placement would put him around the top 40% of all players. In spite of that, his O-WAR, or offensive WAR, ranks 117th out of 177. How is it that Mickey Moniak has above average stats as a batter, but analytically was below average? There's a couple of reasons. First off, Moniak played at the hitter-friendliest venue in Major League Baseball, Coors Field. The league-wide average OPS in 2025 was 719. At Coors Field, batters combined to hit an 828 OPS. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that playing half your games there may inflate your stats a little bit. Case in point, Moniak had 253 plate appearances this season at Coors Field and 208 on the road. At Coors, he had a fantastic 946 OPS. On the road, a 680 OPS. MVP caliber at Coors, below average everywhere else. Second and lastly, Moniak's O-WAR may be on the low side due to his position. Of his 135 games played, 72 of them, or more than half, came in right field. This season, right fielders combined to be one of the best hitting positions in baseball. They combined to hit an OPS of 741. That was the third best behind designated hitters and first basemen. In layman's terms, the bar was high for right fielders when it came to hitting. Unless they were exceptional, being simply good but not great compared to your competition could hinder one's O-WAR. When a player's O-WAR is low, his entire WAR will be low. Sometimes, good hitting can outpace bad defense, but given all the reasons mentioned, Mickey Moniak has the distinction of a relatively fine 115 adjusted OPS, but a low negative 0.6 WAR. It's one of the most unique seasons of 2025, and one of the most unique seasons in MLB history.